We've seen some examples where two variables in a table are associated. So what would it look like if two variables are not associated? Specifically, we want to fill in the table from the previous example so that there is no association between gender and preferred type of snack. So what we want to do is to make sure that our conditional distributions exactly match each other, and to do that we make them both match the marginal distribution. So number one, I'm going to figure out the marginal distribution for salty and sweet. So figure out the marginal distribution for, I should say, for type of snack. For type of snack. Okay, so I want to figure out, so before we did the conditional distributions for male and female for type of snack, right now I want to do the marginal distribution first. So I'm going to be looking at 110 out of 500 and 390 out of 500. Now remember what I told you, when you compare you need to use two different rows or two different columns, but when we're figuring out a conditional or marginal distribution, we're only using one row or one column. So 110 out of 500 is 22%, 0.22. 390 out of 500 then would be 78%, or 0.78. Now, number two, we're going to make the conditional distributions for each of our gender categories match the marginal. So make conditional distributions match the marginal distributions, which means I need to have 22% of both males and females preferring salty and 78% of both males and females preferring sweet. So how do I do that? I look at the total. I've got 400 males altogether. I want 22% of them in the salty category. So I do 0.22 times 400. And when I do 0.22 times 400, I get 88. And then I want to do 0.78 times 400, or I could just subtract 88 from 400, and I get the rest of the males, which are 312. So 312 are in the sweet category, 88 in the salty category. Then for females, there's 100 of those. I want 22% and 78%. Well, and obviously 22% of 100 is 22. And 78% of 100 is 78. But I'm going to go ahead and put those down anyway, because sometimes they're not as easy to do in your head. So now, if I add these up, 88 plus 22 gives me 110. 312 plus 78 gives me 390. So no matter whether I do rows or columns, my percentages are the same in every column, and they are the same in every row. That would show no association. So what would the graph then look like if there's no association? So if I did the male and female in the previous video for salty and sweet, and so I'll use the same legend I did before, where I used this for sweet. I think I used that for sweet, didn't I? Yeah, because I did sweet first. Okay, so that was sweet and this was salty. It's not in the same order as the table, but I'm going to make it match what I have up here. So sweet should be 78% and salty should be 22%. So 78% is probably about right here. And salty. So if I have my legend here, and this was 100% and 50%, and this would be 75% and 25%, you can see the bars would look identical. So identical bars. Now, if I did a side-by-side graph, a side-by-side bar graph, I could do the same thing. I could say here's for male and here's for female, and this would be 78%, and down here we'll call this 22%, and I would have the same two bars for both of them. Okay, so identical bar graphs if there is no association. So no association, identical bars.